This is the DNVR Broncos Podcast, and today we've got a fun game to talk about. The Broncos won yesterday, ended the losing streak in Vegas, and this should be a fun show. It's going to be a bit of a different show, but I'm excited about it, and hopefully you guys are too. Welcome into the Toyota Lounge. This is the DNVR Broncos Podcast presented by Bet365. I'm Henry Chisholm, and this is going to be a weird show today because, first of all, I'm back from being sick. I was out for like a week with the flu or something like that. And to make up for that, I'm the only one here today. Zach is busy. Zach's on the All NFL show. He's over talking about everything that happened in the NFL this week. Todd is being a good father, taking care of his child. He's going to call in for a bit, but this isn't a joke. It's just me here. And that's the plan for the first 30 minutes before we get to Todd. Before Eric Weedham comes down, we talk some vibes. He's our vibes guy. We also will talk about the uniforms. In particular, I thought the Broncos made a weird sock choice tomorrow, but we've got about 45 minutes of more important things to talk about before we get to that. This is going to be fun. So before I was on the Broncos podcast, I covered CU for DNVR. And so for about 3 years, 5 days a week with no days off, never took a vacation, never was sick, nothing. I had a solo hour show, which is a lot of them. And for 30 minutes, this is what we're doing. So if anybody's out there, hang out in the chat, send some questions in because we got a lot to talk about. I in particular have a lot to talk about because I've had to just hold a whole bunch of thoughts in for the past week while I was on the couch, sick and gross. First of all, yesterday's game, I think the big takeaway for me is something that Sean said after the game, and that's that this team doesn't win that game last year because there was a lot that went wrong. You know, you look at early in the game, in particular the offense moved the ball well, but you're settling for field goals. The penalties at the beginning. The defense is letting the Raiders go down the field and score points, and all of a sudden it's 13-9 at halftime, and they bounce back. And I think that's something that, to me, is the biggest piece of the big picture of what we learned yesterday. Because this divisional games are hard. You know, I spent the morning watching 3 games. The Chiefs played the Dolphins, the Commanders played the Cowboys, and the Lions played the Colts. And all 3 were decent games for a bit. Even that Chiefs game, the Dolphins went down the field, scored a touchdown in the final minutes. I think the Chiefs kicked a field goal as time expired to get the win. And the Panthers are not a good football team. So the fact that you're able to make that happen, it's interesting. I think when I said Dolphins, that's the Panthers they played. You look at the Colts and the Lions. That's another one. It's back and forth, and Anthony Richardson's making plays, and they're getting surprising stops against the Lions. And just like that Chiefs game, you look at them and you say, there's no way this should be happening because there's one team that's very clearly better than the other team, but the team that's better is not winning this game because that's what happens in the NFL. And then you go to the divisional game, and that's the Cowboys, and that's the Commanders. And you watch those 2 teams play, and it's the same thing. It's back and forth. Both teams making mistakes. It's a gross game. And eventually the Cowboys, arguably before yesterday, the worst team in the NFL at that point, maybe the team you'd rather play over any other team in the NFL, the Cowboys pull off the upset over the Commanders, something that nobody could have expected. Why? Because it's a divisional game. And it's just it adds a weird dynamic. So first of all, every NFL game is a challenge. You throw in division, you throw in all that comes with that, the fact that you know each other so well. Any divisional win is a good win. And yesterday's win for the Broncos, I think, was a great win because not only did they win, they were able to fight back from that 13-9 deficit and then go and win the game. And then win it, honestly, pretty convincingly. There were some weird decisions there at the end of the game. You know, I think 4 minutes left, 4.5 minutes left. Broncos get the ball back. The Raiders have, I think, all 3 timeouts at that point. And you would think the Broncos would be trying to run out the clock. Instead, they throw the ball 3 times, all 3 incomplete, all 3 stop the clock. And, I mean, it's ugly when it doesn't work. I mean, that's a gamble. Because if you're a coach in that situation, the very obvious thing that you do, your fastball right there, is that you just run the ball right up the middle, take what you can get. If you get a first down, you get to chew more clock, great. But at least get those timeouts out of the Raiders' hands. When you decide that you're not going to run the football there, things get different. You decide to do what people wouldn't do. All of a sudden, you're opening yourself up for criticism, and he got criticized, as he should. Still, though, good win. Won it convincingly. Even with those strange decisions at the end, the game was never really in doubt. And in a divisional game, that is a great, 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 great win. So that's a big picture. I think the other big conversation that needs to happen after that game in particular is Courtland Sutton, because he's at the point now where I think we're seeing him kind of level up in real time, or maybe he's just playing with a real quarterback for the first time in his career. After the game, Bo Nix said that the Raiders surprised the Broncos with how they ran the defense. There was more blitzing. There were more one-on-ones back for the receivers, for the tight ends. And because of that, they had to alter the plays that they were calling. It wasn't so much just, take the 3-4 yards up the middle, because when they're blitzing, all of a sudden that can go wrong. Now, you're trying to figure out which of your receivers can beat the guys lined up against. And yesterday, of course, that guy was Courtland Sutton. The Broncos threw his way 8 times. He caught the ball 8 times, 97 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a spectacular game, and it's one of many spectacular games. Again, I don't think they had Ja'Cory Bennett yesterday. There were some flaws with that Raiders team. That's not. You're not going up against the best of the best when you're Courtland Sutton playing the Raiders. But to dominate the Raiders as he did is unique. And to have this stretch that he's on right now is very unique. Over the past 5 games, Courtland Sutton has picked up 70 receiving yards every single game. Every single one of them, he has 70 yards. The last time a Broncos receiver did that was 2014. When Demaryius Thomas, I think he actually went 8 games, not just 5. He had 70 consecutive receiving yards, 8 straight games in 2014. It's only the 11th time in Broncos history that a receiver has had 5 consecutive 70-yard games. To put that in perspective, only 2 other receivers in the NFL have done it this season: Nico Collins and Justin Jefferson. You look at last year: Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Adam Thielen, Puka Nacua. That's the list. Year before, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. Those are the only guys in the past few years who have provided a stretch of consistency like the one that Courtland Sutton has given the Broncos. And those are all guys who have been all-pros. There isn't a single guy who hasn't been an all-pro in there. Adam Thielen in 2023, maybe a little bit past his prime, but still back in the day was an all-pro. And that's what Courtland Sutton's doing. I think yesterday went into the game on pace for 999 yards. He's on pace for like 1050 now. Courtland Sutton looks like a really good player, and it makes this offseason interesting because he's under contract for next year, but his contract is not guaranteed. It's $15.5 million. And the Broncos need to decide whether they want to bring Courtland back or whether they could use that money somewhere else. Go get a T. Higgins and, you pay him $30 million. You double it. Maybe you save a couple million and say, like, we like what we've got behind him. We can save money here, spend it somewhere else. But $15.5 million for Courtland Sutton next year looks like a steal. And that is an exciting place to be. After last summer, we all know that there's going to be some contract talks, whether the Broncos say, like, we'll give you a raise. Last year, they gave him the incentives, added incentives to his contract. I'm not sure what exactly those are. I think going to the playoffs was one of them. I'd imagine 1,000 receiving yards would hit a couple more. It might not come out to $15.5 million if you keep him, but maybe there's an extension. Maybe there's something, because as it stands now, I like the way this receiver room is built because it wasn't just Court yesterday. I think that, again, going back to this being a game of one-on-ones for the receivers, you expect Courtland Sutton to be able to go beat whatever Raiders defensive back he lines up against. That's not a talented secondary. That entire back seven is just not very good. And because of that, Court should be able to go beat those guys. Now, going 8 for 8 when you throw his way with a couple of touchdowns and almost 100 yards, that's better than just winning the matchup. But he did great work. He wasn't the only one who won his one-on-ones, though, and I think that's what's so encouraging, because you have Devaughn Vele there, 9 targets, 6 catches, 80 yards, and all of a sudden you can say this 7th-round rookie is another guy who we can trust. I think we've seen enough this season that, he may never be a Pro Bowler. He may not be somebody who's going and getting you 100 yards when he has a tougher matchup, but to be able to go give you 80 yards he missed a couple games. This would be his 8th or 9th game of his career in a rivalry game on the road. That's big. And if that's your number 1 in Courtland Sutton, that's your number 2 in Devaughn Vele, you have Josh Reynolds coming back from injury probably this week. That's not a bad top 3. Now, it's not going to be competitive with what some other teams roll out there. The Dolphins have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and whoever else they want to put out there with those as the third guy. But that's a good, solid top 3. And the Broncos' strength, I think, is in their depth. Where you see, it wasn't a perfect game for Troy Franklin yesterday, but I think there was still plenty to like. I think the fact that he's getting some of those opportunities is good. You talk about Devaughn Vele as a guy, this is his 8th or 9th game. Troy would be a couple games even behind that. So for a 21-year-old who you should be expecting to maybe take a couple years before he's a game breaker in the NFL, and people forget that. He was a 5-star recruit. He was one of the best receivers in the class coming out of California, and then went to Oregon and immediately lived up to the hype. Like, he goes in there and he's putting up like 1,400-yard seasons. The fact that he's slowing down a bit in his rookie year can't be that big of a surprise. I like what he could be next year. And then you throw in what they're doing with Marvin Mims, and this group to me looks like it's one that you can build around going forward. And I'm curious to see if that's what the Broncos decide to do. And these are conversations that will take place after we get to watch another 5 games, have 5 games more information. But this is a solid group, and I don't go into this draft, into this offseason, saying the Broncos need to go find an alpha receiver. I still think that it would be nice if you had one. If all of a sudden you bump everybody down the rotation, that'd be great, but I'm no longer in a place where I think that you need to have a new top dog in this receiving room, and it's because of what Courtland Sutton has done over the past 5 weeks. And the fact that everybody else is stepping up behind him is also awesome. Let's see. We only have a minute here, but let's get into Marvin Mims a bit, because we saw more of him in that. I'm not sure if Sean has been willing to call it a joker position. I know media members have asked him over and over again because people really want to put him in that role, because Sean's been looking for that guy, that kind of X factor, that mismatch guy who can make defense make tough decisions about whether they want linebackers on the field, whether they want safeties on the field to match up with them, guys who can run up the middle, guys who can run outside, guys who can catch the ball too. So we're seeing growth. Again, I still think you just got to get a little bit out of Marvin as a true runner, as somebody. It doesn't necessarily need to be like hit the A gap hard and go grind out 3-4 yards, but just a tick more on a tosses or those outside zones, whatever it may be, because everything else is working. You want to get him those screens, you can get him those screens, and we saw yesterday took it what? It was 37 yards. That's a huge play in a game like the one the Broncos played yesterday, where you're 13-9 at halftime, 13-9 at halftime. I mean, to be able to flip the field in a play is massive, and finding a way for Marvin to do that is great. I'm not ready to say that this is a success at this point. I mean, you're getting a play or two a week, but eventually you'd like to see that just grow a little bit more. Especially just to kind of justify using him this way instead of trying to develop him as a receiver. Because again, he's another guy, big-time recruit. Marvin Mims was the all-time national receiving leader. I think... I can't remember if it was for a single season or if it was for his career, but I think he's 3rd in one and he's 1st in the other. You're talking about like when your dad played back in the 70s. even back then, nobody was able to do what Marvin Mims did in high school, and he did in Texas. So again, big-time recruit, immediately productive at Oklahoma, drafted as a 21-year-old. Sometimes those guys take time to develop. I like getting him the ball. I think it's going to work, but I'm similar to where I was with Bo Nix at the beginning of the season, where it's like you see signs that it could work. You just need to see it all kind of come together. And obviously, 12 games in, it's coming together for Bo. 4 or 5 games in, just see it come together with Mims. It does scare me a little bit to take away the opportunities on the outside, where maybe that's where he needs reps. It is what it is. Let's talk about a couple of our partners real quick before we jump back into it, because again, I've got weeks of weird thoughts that I had while on my fever. But Toyota makes all this possible. We're here in the Toyota lounge. You guys are here in the Toyota chat. And that's because Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. We partnered up because they have a lot in common with us. They like trucks. DNVR likes trucks. They've been around for generations. Coloradans have loved them for generations. We're all Coloradans here, except for me. But I'm kind of adopted. They have made a bunch of awesome pushes, especially with their electric vehicles. There's 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. Their SUVs can take command on the road and on the trail, so you can explore the road less traveled without sacrificing smooth city rides in SUVs like the RAV4 and the Grand Highlander. They also have 17 miles with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, so if you guys are adventurous, Toyota is the place for you. You can visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Courtland Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood, official automotive partner of the NFL, and the official vehicle of DNVR. Also, a new partner of ours, Bird Call. Yeah, do you know, was it last week Bird Call sent a bunch of food in that Noshawn and those guys got to eat?
Yeah, I also got them Bird Call, man. That thing is delicious.
Yeah.
I've eaten it multiple times, but we all got Bird Call that day, and it was pretty legit.
Which is awesome, but also it just happens to be the show that Noshawn and Jarrell and Todd do, and we don't get it. But it is what it is. We'll go get some Bird Call because Bird Call really is the best. Who doesn't like a chicken sandwich? That's just one of the... That might be the top food, and Bird Call does it better than anybody else. If you're looking for chicken sandwiches in Denver, then of course Bird Call is the place to go. Bird Call is actually hatched in Denver, Colorado. Now has 8 restaurants across the Front Range. There are more opening soon. You can get over to Bird Call, get your hands on a bird in a box. Right now, DNVR fans can score 20% off at Bird Call with promo code DNVR. Get down to Bird Call or order online at eatbirdcall.com and grab this offer now through the end of the month. Only valid on any order of $10 or more. Limit 1 per guest per day. Not valid on catering orders or through third-party delivery sites. All right. Back in the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by Bet365. I've got a lot to say about the defense. I've got one more thing to say about the offense, and this is a weird one, but last night, watching Sunday Night Football, Saquon Barkley just went and won the Eagles that game. Eagles, it's back and forth with the Rams the entire way. Both offenses look like they can't be stopped, but then all of a sudden they slow down a bit. And then all of a sudden, I think the Eagles got a little lead. Saquon breaks off a 70-yard run, and he's out there. Does it again later on. All of a sudden, he's got, 220 yards. He's up close to, 1,400 for the season. He's a monster. And my thought was, what would the Broncos be if they had Saquon Barkley? And it's a little bit, it's an imaginary world, but it's a world that would be pretty cool. And I've got nothing against the Broncos running backs. I think that they've all kind of found a role. I think that they're starting to hit their groove. I think that they're kind of built to keep growing through this final month of the season, the cold weather games. I like the trajectory. I like where they're at. But Saquon Barkley is a freak. And for the Broncos right now, I think everybody in Broncos country is happy. And the Broncos are all but assured to be going to the playoffs. They'd really need to screw up to not make the playoffs. That's a win this year. It's especially a win because you have a rookie quarterback. It's especially a win because that rookie quarterback is a major reason why it's happening. Bo Nix looks awesome. But the expectations this year, nobody's talking about Super Bowl for the Broncos. And they probably shouldn't be because, again, this is just a step in that process. But it's interesting to think about how different the Broncos would be if they had a Saquon, a guy who can just change that game, a guy who can all of a sudden you're tied and then you're back in front. You You look back at the play Brandon Jones made, that interception at the beginning of the third quarter, all of a sudden the Broncos get the ball, they go down, take the lead, they never give the lead back. It's just that little momentum change that Brandon Jones gave the Broncos right there. Saquon Barkley is capable of doing that over and over and over again. I think that that's what makes it so interesting, is that if you have somebody like that, you're just getting those field flipping plays over and over and over again. So when you look at the, oh, you're jumping in? Why not? Yeah, why not? I think that the Broncos are lacking something like that could take them over the top, because they really aren't far off from being a championship contender, which sounds crazy to say, but when you look at the contenders across the league, as I'm now joined by Eric Weedham.
That's right.
What do you think Saquon Barkley could do for the Broncos? This is a tough one. This was a weird side tangent that was going to be real quick, but
Saquon Barkley could do a lot for the Denver Broncos.
he could.
They have a great offensive line.
Yeah.
They have no, obviously, you know this as somebody who talks about the Broncos all the time. They are so well-rounded in every position except for skill positions.
Yeah. Yeah, but I even think the receivers at this point, they're not holding you back anymore.
No.
At the very least, you got average receivers. If all of a sudden, Javonte had that hot stretch. He finally got back up to 4 yards per carry, and then yesterday it's 8 carries for -2 yards. Rushing game as a whole, less than 3 yards per carry. It's one of those things that when you look back at the play calling end of the game, why is Sean Payton throwing the ball instead of trying to run the clock? Well, it's because
they can't.
They haven't been able to run the ball. Doesn't mean it's the right decision, because the timeouts, wasting those timeouts might be worth it. But
what do you think is Javonte? What is the issue? Is Javonte just not the same guy he was ever since he tore his ACL?
Yeah. Yes. I that's the big piece of it. I think there's also a piece of it that says, I think he was at 4.4 yards per carry, something like that as a rookie. And everybody gets excited because if you can do this as a rookie, then imagine what you can do next year when you're more accustomed to the league. And so you're not only not getting what Javonte was at his best, you're also nowhere close to what you were hoping he would be.
I know. It's just one of these guys that I was positive is going to be a massive contributor for the Denver Broncos. Well, I mean, ran so angry.
Yep.
He ran with purpose, and I can't really quite identify why he's not particularly effective now.
Yeah.
But he's not.
No.
And
not notably at the very least. I think that he's right in that. There are plenty of starting running backs in the NFL that are kind of interchangeable. And I think he's one of those guys, and you really wanted him to be somebody who's a step ahead.
Well, there's just a couple. I mean, all three of the backs on the Broncos, there's something you can point to be like, oh, yeah, Jaleel McLaughlin, that's a change of pace back. That guy's got a lot of speed. He can make people miss in space. Javonte Williams, he is an absolute menace. He just runs with reckless abandon, and he craves contact, and he can really be your between the tackles guy. And then Audric Estime is another, he should be your short distance back. Theoretically, none of those guys are quite that guy.
You're just kind of waiting. But I also think that I think that this is going to be a big month in December. Or if they go in there, I think there's a real chance that by the end of the month, you're saying these guys are all. The Broncos have a good running back rotation. You've got what you're looking for going into the playoffs. Now, they're not going to have the game breaker, and that's the thing, is that this is part of a larger topic that the NFL hasn't valued running backs the same for about 20 years. It's been on this decline, where all of a sudden the top of the market running back is making maybe half as much as the top of the market receiver. At this point, even a little bit less. But you go and look at the really good teams in the NFL.
Right, what it actually means to have a top
The Eagles
guy.
Decide that they can pay $12 million a year to Saquon, and look what he's done for him.
Well,
you look at the Ravens, $8 million a year for Derrick Henry.
I know.
$8 million.
That's
ridiculous.
Well, it's just that it's like your fantasy team, everyone's like, you got to draft running backs. That was the edict for so many years.
Yeah.
And then that has even fallen off. But the running back position is oddly in a place where it cannot make you good. But if you are good, it will make you great.
Exactly. And I think we've seen it for the Broncos. For all the people who say, don't invest in running back, don't waste resources there.
Right. But
what did Terrell Davis do for the Broncos?
Exactly. But but the point being, you can't, if you are not in a position where all the rest of the team is at least in moderately good shape, you can't. It's funny because like a running back is just like candy at this point, but it's like somehow you need candy. It's
somehow, if you want to be the best team, you got to be really good.
It's the fifth food group, like at the top, and it's the most important food group. Which
You're
actually,
not
I could have
happy without candy.
I could have told you that a long time ago. This is actually my base level of my food pyramid is candy, but. The Broncos are now in a position where, and it's crazy how bright the time. It's funny how, and everybody knows this, but how much having a quarterback fixes absolutely everything else. You're mad at your line, you're mad at your receivers, you're mad at your defensive coordinator, and then you have a quarterback. You're like, our line's incredible. Our defensive coordinator is top of the line. Like everything looks better when you have a quarterback, and now they actually, you know more than this. I mean, what are the implications of Russ Wilson going into next year? I mean, are we
next year's the last year where there's issues?
So we're not off the hook yet.
Nope.
But we are
$32 million going to Russ next year.
But if nothing else, even if they don't have a lot of like free agency money to spend, we do have our full complement of picks, and you can use your premium picks on playmakers. Which, like if you are the Broncos last year's the year before, obviously when you're looking for a quarterback, that's like the foundation. But, like in years past, they'd be like, should we get a left tackle? Should we get should we get a guy in the trenches? Something that is
we kind of have to, like,
super duper important. But like when you're past that point, and then you can just get like the dope receiver, like we could just draft Malik Neighbors or like some guy, like we can get, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's next year. Except for that we're already the best. So now it's just we're gilding the lily.
I know. It would be so fun. It's just so funny to see like Saquon Barkley, the numbers are good, but he's a boomer bust runner. Yeah. It's like, well, he was in New York.
Yeah.
Like you're getting buried behind the line of scrimmage or you're doing something crazy. There's one of two things can happen.
Yeah, in New York, the defense is like, man, we got to prepare for Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones. I think we'll load the box up.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get this ad break a little bit early.
Sure.
Just clear some space.
Hey, listen.
We got Todd calling in a minute. So
Todd.
Start thinking up what you got to say to Todd.
Todd literally phoning it in. Being a good dad today. Something. Well, we don't know that for
sure.
To do. Just being present is not
he
enough.
Said,
you know what I mean?
High standards.
He could be there, but a bad dad.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's what my dad did.
We could ask him. Wow.
My dad was a present bad dad.
All right. Shout out to Bet365. Bet365 is awesome. Made my weekend a whole lot more fun.
Bet on Bo Nix to win Rookie of the Year. Bet it now. You're never going to get better odds.
Might have missed the boat. Those odds are coming crashing down. I had the Broncos minus 5.5 yesterday. So you'll remember at the end of the game, the penalty or they pick up the first down, which is almost a touchdown. Raiders almost get that touchdown right there.
Yeah, they did.
And then it's first and goal from the 1. Enough time for 3 or 4 past the end zone. Jonah Ellis saves my life with that sack. I owe him actually a very particular amount of money. But Bet365 makes everything more fun. They made yesterday more fun. They'll make tonight more fun. Monday Night Football, Nuggets and Avs. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be incredible. Bet365 is an official partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, and that's why they're giving new customers in Colorado 2 months of Altitude Plus on Bet365 when you sign up. We love Altitude. We love Bet365.
We love watching the Nuggets. We love watching the Avalanche.
So sign up. Make sure you use the code DNVR365 because then you can take advantage. You get $150 in free bets with a $5 first bet. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-3700. And
if you haven't, like, if you're a person, you're like, I can't bet. What am I doing? I can't bet. It can just be fun, and you're insane to not take advantage of the intro offers that these places give you. Like, you're insane. They give you so much money to just try it out, and then all you do is first off listen to Dev, and then occasionally listen to Henry, and
check out Game Time too, because if you want to watch the Nuggets or who's home tonight, is it Nuggets or Avs home tonight?
Nuggets are home.
Nuggets are playing. Oh, that's right. The Knicks.
The Knicks of New York. The Knickerbockers are in town.
Oh boy. So me and a couple of my buddies have season tickets.
Oh,
and
congratulations on the friends, man.
Yeah, I know. It's actually pretty cool. But if nobody's claimed them a week before the game, we'll list them. And unfortunately, our Knicks tickets sold when we realized that we could go. So I might be looking at Game Time tonight because there are a bunch of awesome deals. Looks like 149 to be, what is that, row FF behind the basket. That would be about the 6th letter of the alphabet or so.
Yeah.
Pretty good seats. Game Time's awesome. They can get you into just about anything. They have their Game Time's picks, which makes getting tickets even easier. Filter out the fluff, all that sort of stuff. Only incredible deals. And you can download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
All right.
It's like an old shoe, you know what I mean? Just listen to Hank Reed ads. Makes
Yeah.
me feel really comfortable.
You like
and like
the
I
ads?
need new shoes.
Wow. Wow.
It's like too old of a shoe.
I know. We don't have any shoe partner, do we?
Shoeless.
Shoes are in a weird place right now. It's strange. I always thought Nikes were far and away the best shoes.
Yeah.
It's still what I wear. But there's a surprising number of people who I'd be like, oh, you seem like a Nike person. Where I'm like, Hokas.
New Balance.
Or New Balances. Yeah.
Hokas have taken over the I've given up
is that
section
what it
of
is?
society.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
but
what it
the sneakerheads have like opened up their heart to New Balance and Asics and like weird stuff. There's like a weird running
Yeah.
shoe thing that's happening. I think this is going to be a terrible time we look back on.
Yeah. I'm still just Nike. All right. We got Todd coming in at any moment.
Calling it.
Yes, calling in. To be clear, he won't be here. He's being
So
a
I
good
want to
father.
know about like just. I want to know state of the union as far as Hank is concerned. Where are you with the Denver Broncos just in general?
That's how we walked in, is that the Broncos are good. Like, this is a playoff team. Not only they're a playoff team, it's like a tough, gritty type of playoff
Yeah.
team. Like, very emotionally controlled.
Yeah.
Which is something people don't talk about much in football. But, like, you see Bo Nix.
Yes.
The clip yesterday, where it's, I think, Tyree Wilson, defensive end, kind of gets in his face.
Yes.
And Bo goes crazy eyes and says,
Greatest
like,
thing I've ever seen.
the rumor is he says, I fear nothing. It's like,
my God,
that's
dude.
this team. Now, they still could use like a couple of playmakers, a couple game changers, but it's not like they need them at specific places. I think they have a good balanced roster. They're solid. You just need one more. You just need somebody to take it over the top.
God, I fear
just
almost-
like we do.
I fear almost everything.
Oh, never mind. Todd hung up.
He heard my voice. He's
Yeah.
like,
He's like, they don't need me. They don't need me.
So I was talking to, and I'm sure he'll confirm this yesterday, Noshan Moreno and
Yep.
Todd Davis.
Yep.
And I came upstairs and I was like, I can't believe we're watching the greatest Broncos team of all time right in front of
Wow.
our eyes.
And just right in front of both of their faces.
No, not in front of their faces. To them. I was
their
talking.
faces.
I was like, "Can you believe this is the greatest Broncos team of all time?" And they were like, "He'll confirm. I'm sure he agreed."
All right, I heard a little jingle. Is he? Oh, he's somewhere really
Turn
dark.
your lights on, Todd.
Yeah. Are you okay? Are you being held hostage?
Yeah, dude.
My lights are on. What are you guys talking about? No.
Oh, that's a good one. Eric had a
No,
story. Eric was in the middle of a story about you.
Yeah, Todd. We can't see you, but I'm sure that you're
We know what you look like.
vigorously nodding in agreement. We
Yeah.
can just assume. I was just telling everybody how yesterday I walked up and you and Noshan Moreno were sitting on the couch watching the game, and I loudly proclaimed that this is the greatest Bronco team I've ever seen. And I felt like you agreed, right? Oh, well, he definitely
He
heard the
does
story.
not agree. He hung up. He hung up on that one. Okay.
And then I was
wow.
like, they're the best of all time. And then I was screaming the word boat as I went downstairs. And they were like, I was sure I heard like, yes, absolutely.
yeah.
I love the Denver Broncos right now. I'm so in.
Isn't that fun?
Dude, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we agree with that sentiment, but we did feel like this was a very good win for the Broncos.
Yeah. What was the best team Noshan was on? Because there was the one that went to the Super Bowl.
It was that one, the
It
one
has-
that set the all-time scoring record.
No, I mean, that was the team, wasn't it? Dumb question.
Yeah.
Let's move along.
Todd, what are we going to have to do to get Noshan Moreno to just say the words that Bo Nix is good?
I feel like he tries his best to be, on the opposite side of the lines. But if you listen to him talk, he does say a lot of good things about Bo Nix. I think he's just trying to be, on the
Wrong?
bad side of things right now. Yes, wrong. I think wrong's the only way to put it.
Yeah. No, that is. The thing is, when he finally buys in, it's going to be
my
so
God.
good.
When Beauchamp comes in, I'm going to make a Beauchamp shirt. He has to wear the
Beauchamp.
day he officially buys in. He has to start wearing the Beauchamp shirt.
Oh, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, but I think he's faking a lot too because we have like game changers before every game, like who we think is going to make a big impact in the game. And yesterday he picked Bo Nix. Like you
Okay.
obviously have faith in the kid if you feel like could be your game changer, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is the only way Noshawn can justify himself. I want to be clear, and this might not even be what he'd say. But he could say, my standard is Peyton Manning. Because that's when I played, last time I played, it was Peyton Manning. If you're not Peyton Manning, you're just not there yet.
So there's been 2 good quarterbacks in the history of the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, maybe that's what he's thinking.
It's absurd,
He
Todd.
has seen a good quarterback.
I'm quite certain he does not care my thoughts on the issue. But you need to start working on him. We need Beauchamp on our side. We need him to leave.
It's so funny because if his high mark is Peyton Manning, if he had saw Peyton Manning his rookie season, he would have said, "This kid is trash."
That's true. That is
get
true.
rid of him.
Wow, that's a good
Because
point.
Peyton did not have a great. I mean, he had some good yards, but he led the league in interceptions, broke the record in interceptions. Like it definitely was a rough start for Peyton's career.
It was. I want to talk about this defense. In particular, so no Zach Allen yesterday, which I think is kind of being forgotten.
It is.
Like when you look at the way the Raiders kind of moved the ball a bit, they had a couple good runs. There was no Zach Allen out there, but the Broncos still made some big plays, particularly that pass rush. Jonah Ellis sealing the game. Nik Bonitto, maybe with the sack of his career. Strip sack, all but sealed the game.
I made a Bonito shirt yesterday.
Did you?
I did.
Is it on the way soon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm excited. But Todd, what did you think of that defensive front without Zach Allen?
I really thought they held up really well. It's a tough task, and you never really know what you're going to get from certain players when they go from playing 25% of the snaps to 100% of the snaps. But I thought Malcolm Roach and JFM came in and did a really good job. And, I thought we missed him in the first quarter. You definitely felt like his presence, would help stop some of those early runs. But throughout the game, I felt like the D-line just kept getting better, and our outside pass rush just continued to be dominant. And those guys continue to play at a really, really high level. And we talked about it early on in the year, like once they acquired some people from other teams, like they really had depth to have 2 sets of starters. And I think you saw that on Sunday. They had a lot of talent out there on the field and, really whooped up on the Raiders' O-line.
Yeah, and I think I spent a lot of time thinking about Jonah Ellis yesterday just because it was a weird game for him. He has the sack at the end, which was awesome and very encouraging, everything he's done this season. But they had him in man coverage against the running back a couple of times yesterday, and it didn't work out. The big one being the little like wheel route to Amir Abdullah out of the backfield that was the touchdown. And Jonah did a good job. Like, he's there in position, but he didn't quite make the play. What did you think of that?
I think it's a tough position to be in. I think you've seen him get caught in that position a few times this year. And
Yep.
I think they're just running, man or zone blitzes, which leaves him on the running back. And you expect the running back to have to stay in to protect, so that would allow Jonah Ellis to also add in and be another rusher. But unfortunately, there's something that we're doing in the red zone that's kind of giving it away, and teams keep hitting us on it. So I think we'll have to start changing, what we call down in the red zone, because he's too good of a rusher to have him man-on-man with a running back, especially guys like Amir Abdullah, guys that run routes, guys that are fast. Like, I'd much rather have Stranad on him in that position.
Yeah, and that's what I came up with too, because part of the value of a guy like Jonah is that he is able to do that sort of thing. He is versatile. You can drop him out into the flat a little bit. He's a well-rounded football player, well-rounded defender. That I came up with the same thing you did, though, where we're starting to kind of see what the limitation is, and the limitation is like you can't do it against Amir Abdullah. Like, let's say for some reason he's playing against the Broncos. I know that I wouldn't let him cover Marvin Mims out of the backfield. I probably wouldn't let him cover Jaleel. I might let him cover Javonte, though. I think that that's something that he could handle, and I think that versatility is a value. And, of course, if Audric's out there, you trust him. I think that we're kind of seeing them find that range of where you can let Jonah handle something in coverage and where you just have to have somebody else do it.
Yeah, it's so tough for me, too, because, he's right there. I know plenty of inside linebackers who wouldn't even be as close as he is. And on both the plays that he got beat on this year, I felt like it was like an amazing throw, an amazing catch. Like, they weren't easy passes to defend by any means, and the quarterback did a great job of getting to the running back. And he's in almost prime position. So I don't know. I don't even know if there's linebackers on our team that could do a better job than that. Like that's a really hard play to defend.
It is, and I totally agree because he's right there. He's a step away, has both hands up in the air. The ball needs to go over, and it's a good catch from the running back too. Like there are plenty of running backs who aren't going to be able to go catch that ball over their head. Like every receiver in the NFL is going to make that, but I mean, maybe you do just live with that there.
Yeah, I mean, you win some, you lose some. I guess it didn't matter at that point in the game. The
Yeah.
Broncos had the win wrapped up, so you know. But I think we do a little bit less man blitzes, leaving our ends to guard running backs in the red zone. We'll see.
Yeah.
So Todd, what does it feel like in the locker room in Club Dub after sweeping the Raiders? Like, does that feel different for the players? Is this just like another win? Like, what is that environment like?
I think that's a good question. I think the environment feels really good for these players because it's tough to beat any team in the NFL, but to beat one team twice, that means you're truly the better team. You went out and performed even when they knew what you like to do, your tendencies. They knew from the last time they played each other what they were good at. We still found a way to win. So I think the players definitely feel like it's a bigger task to beat a team twice. So it's a huge momentum boost for the team.
Does any of that like nonsense fan stuff that we all get locked into, does that make it into the locker room or to the players like mental state at all? Like, do you care that this means a lot to the fans? Like what is a rivalry? I mean, obviously, like guys like you don't grow up hating the Raiders, or maybe you do. I don't know. I don't.
You grew up liking the Raiders.
Oh, even worse.
Come on, guys.
Even worse. So,
Man, you know what I'm saying?
do people absorb that, or is it just you like that the fans like it, or does it? I'm always curious about that. I mean, because clearly they're just different ways to interpret sports, and the fans do it in the dumbest possible way. But like, does that mean anything to you guys?
Not early on. So probably like the first couple of years you're with the team, you're like, dang, they really hate the Raiders. Like, what's the deal here? And then after you play them a couple of times, you're like, you start to develop your own hatred for them. So I think it has to be something that you learn over the course of a few seasons, playing a team multiple times. Mm-hmm. But definitely early on, you're like, these fans are crazy. Like, what I'm saying, the Raiders aren't that bad. And then you realize very quickly, like, the Raiders suck.
Yeah. No, and I remember talking to Melvin Gordon about that because he'd been in the division for so long.
Yeah.
I was like, so do you hate the Raiders? And he was like, I hate one Raider.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, there's this one guy who every single time he's going to, like, are you going to tell me who it is? And he's like, I can't do that. And I was like, I guess not. You're like, I think I went back and figured it out.
Did it rhyme with Smacks Smosby?
Yeah, exactly. But that is always interesting because they are just plugged in. Like, even Court saying last night that he was surprised this week when Pat told him that the Broncos hadn't won on the road against the Raiders since 2015. It's like, you didn't know that? You've been on like all these teams.
I know.
Or last week I wrote the story about the Thursday night game, the Chargers game being flexed to Thursday night.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you think about it? And I talked to Troy Franklin about it. I talked to Jordan Jackson about it. Neither of them had even heard it happen. Which it's like, oh, so I mean, this whole big thing to us is like, yeah, okay, that's a problem for 2 weeks from now, I guess.
Yeah, Todd, I'm curious. Like, let's just turn this into a Todd show. Like, let's just interview Todd. Me and Hank, the everyday hosts, are gonna interview Todd, the special guest from the Broncos. So now that you've made the transition from incredible player to mediocre broadcaster.
Wow. Great broadcaster.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Yes.
Like, how has your perception changed just in general? Like, do you watch these games differently? Do you still picture yourself in the game? Are you just like how closely do the games get to your heart?
I think one of my perceptions that hasn't changed is how I felt about media before I came into it. I think I still feel the same about media members. No, it's a joke. No, but I think that...
Wow, I thought you hated me. I thought you hated me.
No, I think I watch the games in the same way. I still critique it the same, and I think I still feel the same about, the outcome or if players do well. So I think it still means the same to me. I just think I have a lot less pressure preparing or watching games. It's like no stress anymore, but I still feel like I view like how the players play and critiquing their performances in the same way.
Yeah. Do you feel like, does a game like yesterday, does it spark any joy inside of Todd Davis?
I think what it does is, it makes me feel like this team really could, put something together, and I just hope that they don't blow it. Like, that's my thought process. Broncos is like, okay, I like to see the team doing well, and I start thinking about, the rest of the season, the other games coming up. Like, we cannot blow this, and that's immediately where I go with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, obviously, as just a moron, my whole life. I mean, like, it's wild how much my mood has improved since we beat the Raiders. It really there's no justifiable way to really talk about it, but it's just, the whole city of Denver just feels brighter and better when the Raiders have been smited, and we beat them twice, and we're like, the Broncos are good, and the people can wear orange with pride. I don't know. Are you feeling the tides turn a little bit around town?
Yeah, I mean, we know that Denver is Broncos country. I mean, everybody loves the Nuggets and they love the Avalanche, but it's nothing like when the Broncos are winning. So you definitely see a lot more people in Broncos gear when you're out, and people love to have, and show their pride for the city and for the team. So it means a lot. I think that, the city deserves a team that wins and gets to the playoffs. That's what we're used to. I think we can say Broncos are back.
They're back,
They're
baby!
back. Oh, they're definitely back.
So back.
All right. We'll let you get out of here, Todd. Go back to being a good father.
Is there anything you're not good at, Todd? You're a good father.
Ooh.
You're an excellent linebacker. You're way better at this than we are. What is Todd Davis not good at? I need to see you in this, whatever that is.
Well, you said I was a mediocre,
That is true. You said that.
My love language is to neg everybody all the time.
Wow.
So,
Wow. All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, Todd.
see you, Todd.
I
You're the
appreciate
best.
you guys, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
What a good guy that Todd Davis.
That's what the people say.
I love that Todd Davis.
That smile. Okay. Let's talk about a couple of our partners real quick.
Let's do it.
Here's a question for you, Eric.
Sure, I'm ready.
Did you drink any Coors Lights yesterday?
As long as there's no follow-up questions, yes.
Wow. Wow. We love our Coors Lights.
We don't want to know the number or any
actually-
behavior that it caused in me. Just a simple yes, and we'll move on.
Oh, so Montana played Montana State, which is something
Sure.
I wasn't going to bring up. I've also just been like avoiding a couple of mentions on Twitter. But there were some Coors Lights that were drank on Saturday.
Hell yeah,
More
there were.
Coors Lights to be drank in the future. The playoffs starting Saturday. Coors Lights, perfect for any occasion, especially football. When you want to choose chill, choose Coors Light. You know it's cold when the Rockies are blue. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Like, you could easily grab a Coors Light and know that it's cold, but just to see
That's
one
true.
with Big Blue
Yeah.
Mountain, you're like, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It does. That is. I wonder how much it costs to do that. Like a can, to make a can can't be more than like what, 6 cents, but like to make it with the Blue Mountains, it's
Much
like
less.
8 cents.
Way less. We're
Way
talking
less.
we're going to explain economies of scale to
Cool.
Hank
Final
after the
segment,
after
economies
the
of
show.
scale. Awesome. If you would like to help our economy of scale, you can come to our
Nice.
events. I'm not sure what the next event that we have going is. Of course, there's the tailgate Monday night, which is going to be electric.
Dude.
I think Sunday night tailgates maybe just slightly more electric
I have to
because
tell you, like-
you get to go all day.
There are many things that indicate the growth that this company
Yeah.
has and the improvement that this company has undergone. No more emblematic thing than the tailgate. It is like there's like a whole system of tents. There's it's just like a big deal. It started off
Yeah.
as a very small deal.
Yeah, no, like I had a couple friends come to the last tailgate who hadn't been in a couple of years.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, this is not the same.
No.
It's like, no. Like, you go get your
Yeah, we used
free
to have,
Raising
like-
Cane's gift card. Like, we got all sorts of stuff here.
We used to have like one party sub for everybody.
That's right. Yeah. Everybody come get a piece. Yeah. No, those are a lot of fun. My
Yeah.
parents are coming to this one.
hell
No,
yeah.
I
dude.
was told I think the text from my mom was something like, "Do you mind if we come for Thanksgiving? We can go to 3 games in 3 days."
Whoa.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to say this is because you want to see me for a holiday and not because of the games, but it is what it is.
I think I'm most jealous in life of Dean and Penny.
Yeah. Well, if you want to see them, we'll be at 3
I
games in
asked
3
Dean
days.
years ago if he'd be my dad, and he said yes. Yeah, so
He said yes. Hashtag he said yes. Okay. Come to our tailgates, come to our takeovers, come to all of our awesome events. You can follow us on social at DNVR_sports or go to the DNVR.com/events to check out our calendar. All right, 10 minutes left. I have a question about socks.
Yep.
For you, because you're
Yep.
kind of a sock guy.
I'm a sock man.
For those who don't know D-Line well, he is... what is your official title?
I am the creative director of the ALLCITY network. I created the brand for DNVR. I've made every single one of the shirts.
Yep, you made this whole thing.
I made the pattern, and just the whole brand
everything.
is my brainchild.
Yep.
And now
The look of the show is because of
I drew that. I drew that
Yeah.
that logo over
Yep.
there. I made that pattern. I did all the stuff.
Yep. So he knows what he's looking at, whereas I don't necessarily.
Sure.
Yesterday, the Broncos wore their white jerseys with blue pants and also blue socks.
Yep.
And, this is one that Mace, our old friend, has spoken a lot about, saying if you just have different colored socks, then all of a sudden everything kind of like blends together. Like instead of your leg just be blue. And I totally agree after seeing it yesterday. What do you think of this look, Eric?
Okay. I gave my very fiery, impassioned review of the Denver Broncos uniforms when they were debuted.
Yep.
And I feel the exact same way that I have about them the entire time. I feel like they are objectively good looking. There's nothing about them that you can point to and say is ugly.
Yep.
Apparently, I just triggered Siri.
Yeah, phone just said try again.
Siri asked me to
Bad
try
take,
again.
I
I
think
don't
is what
think
she
there's
meant.
anything unattractive about them, and yet I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate them because yesterday, especially, the combination of the Raiders and the Broncos, the Navy is now so dark that it actually looked black. Half the time I was like, I don't know who, like I felt, I didn't know who was who. Like as they were going through the line, I was confused when they would throw into the secondary. I was like either excited or upset, and I didn't know which because I couldn't tell which team had caught the ball. Like this, they needed either white or orange socks. I get
Can we
it.
see the
like,
White Sox?
Like,
Yaya?
just man, like, just the worst part was that on the TV next to our TV, playing were the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers, and it was such a glorious looking setup. The way that the colors on the jerseys were so vibrant that it actually changed the color temperature of the cameras. They had to change it, and the field looked more vibrant. The whole thing looked rich and beautiful. Listen, I can't spend my whole life just being mad at the uniforms.
There's too much to like at the moment.
Dude, and right now they do represent success, which obviously is the best look on any uniform. Success. I just if they would just wear.
It was right there
orange
for them.
jerseys with white pants, I would never complain. I'd be completely fine. They're just they just have it's like they're just having fun out there. Like they're like, oh, what if we did this, and this? Like every week, I'm like,
it's like that.
Can you just look like the Broncos? Like they just didn't look like the Broncos yesterday.
Well, and the worst part about the whole piece the different pieces together thing is that, for example, the white helmet will make its debut this week, because you can only wear the white helmet with the blue jerseys by NFL rules, because you have to wear the alternate with an alternate.
Yes.
And so you just, it's not a league that has rules that are set up to be like modular, try this one with this one with this one. And I don't know. I agree. Like they're not objectively bad.
No, they're not.
I will say
they're
the
not
all
ugly
orange,
at
when
all.
you get the undershirt showing a little bit, breaks it up with the blue socks. They aren't bad.
They're not bad. They're not.
The thing is, it's just going to take at least a few years to look at them and say those are the Broncos.
I promise you, these will be changed soon. I promise you. And then you'll look back and be like, what were we doing? We were insane back then. But
because you
again,
have a look.
You have
so there's no reason to just make a new look. There's a reason why you go through again. it's not like the Packers changed the look. The 49ers.
Never, ever.
The Raiders, who you just played, also in the division.
Never, ever
because
switch
that's
back.
who you are. That's your brand. That's your.
There is something just at the core of what the Denver Broncos are. If you go to any bar, the DNVR bar, for example, if you'd like, and you look around, like everyone is wearing throwback
because
stuff.
they're so good.
Not even just like but just the D. It's just like,
and it feels like the Broncos.
It feels
it's
like
memories.
the Broncos.
That's
but
us.
again,
that's
like
who we
I can't be. I can't spend my entire life being angry at these jerseys because again, they are not ugly. They're not bad.
Yep.
I never said they were, and I never will say. It's just they anger me in a way that is above pure aesthetics.
Yep. And 10 years from now, I think that if they're still wearing these uniforms, you'll look and be like, yeah, fine. Like you won't. This conversation will kind of die down because all of a sudden you'll turn the game on and you'll be like, oh, that's
but here's
the Broncos.
Problem is that
those are the Broncos.
Here's the problem: they won't do it. They're like now in the track that like the Falcons are on or something. It's like they're like, we changed our numbers this year. Some like dumb thing.
Like,
they're gonna have like a gold
you changed them because the last ones are bad. Try something new.
There's
see if it's
gonna be
good.
a black Broncos coming out. We're just gonna be,
Meanwhile, you have like the best
You
uniforms.
have the best
right
uniforms
there.
in the world.
And personally, I think throwback all white uniforms, or maybe all white, but road uniforms. I think those might sneaky be better than the throwback home uniforms. Like the blue and the letters with the I love it. But let's not end on negativity. We brought you here because you are the vibes guy.
Give us
what are the Broncos vibes right now? What are the Broncos?
The Broncos vibes are trending up in such a way that I would say that you need to contact your doctor if it lasts longer than 3 hours. Like
it's been weeks.
The vibes have been trending in such a way that I feel like I'm welcoming them back into the protected part of my heart where I actually put faith into them and I'm allowed to feel adulation or complete dejection if they win or lose. And they've not been granted access to that part of my heart for the last like 5 years. Like I've been looking at them as just like a stepfather watching a stepson play football. Like, good job. Well, we lost. Let's go get ice cream. And now I'm like if they lose, like my week is gonna suck.
Yep.
And that I love that.
It's the way it should be. And I think we got to get through these super chats real quick. So my last thought on this is that people don't realize how quickly you go from bad to good in the NFL.
Yes.
It's not like a year after year after year. Like in about 16 months, the Lions went from being the Lions to being like Super Bowl contender. Like that's the way it works. You look at the Texans, and I think that should be the goal, is that going to next season, there should be people talking Super Bowl for the Broncos. Like if you steal a win in the playoffs, all it takes is like a decently good offseason. And going into next season, you are the Texans. You are the team they're like, hey, it might not work out. Texans don't look great, but you are in that tier of it could happen. And the Broncos are so close to turning that corner.
The Broncos are contenders.
They are.
They are contenders.
They're right
all
there.
It takes is a quarterback. And we all knew this. We thought it was going to be, we tried to skip steps, Hank. We tried to skip steps. And what did we get? Misery.
We got a lot of super chats. And we got a little time. First of all, Broncos only says Bo Nix, Bonito, Bo Leaves, Bo Randon Jones. Okay. Boneless victory wings. Oh, yeah. Believe it. Broncos only. Thank you, Broncos only. You're the real Bo.
I love it.
Mile High Sing. Shout out to Hank for answering my question on X regarding Week 16 flex. I was wrong at first, right eventually. This is an off-season question, but do you think Genty falls to Denver, or would Sean Payton trade up? Ooh. This is where I was going with the Saquon thing, is that if you can justify it. Sean Payton's first ever draft pick was Reggie Bush.
Yep.
With like top 5 pick, top 3 pick, something like that. He's more than willing to invest. Genty's the kind of guy who you do that. We're going to dig into that a lot. I think draft pod later this week I'm hoping to be on. What's our next one here? From Ricky. From Andrew says, got Nick's Rookie of the Year plus 1,600. Love it. Knowing Cliff's offense falls out final 6 or 7 games. Genius. That's how it always happens. More pressure on Commanders to win games or help Daniels for Rookie of the Year. I think there's pressure to do both. And I think talking to James Palmer, I sit next to him in the press box. So this was last week, but he was talking about that rib injury, which is for real, because ever since that injury, he does not look the same.
I got the opportunity to get a little drunk with ESPN / ALLCITY Network's Tim Legler.
That's fun.
Who's a big Commanders fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, man, I know all about Jaden Daniels. He played on the Arizona Sun Devils, so I was paying attention to him closely. Mm-hmm. And then obviously he went to LSU. I didn't pay attention as closely, but he's a player that I was where he won the Heisman. Mm-hmm. But he was always on my do not draft list because he is so
He's skinny.
slight.
Yep.
And I was like,
he has been forever. He was like 165 pounds.
And
before.
I was like, you, Tim Legler, know what this
listed.
is. You already lived through RG3. Like, what do you What do you think is going to happen?
It's not just sliding when you run. It's like you get hit in the pocket and bad things happen.
This is going to happen every year. No, it's just
you would think
it's gonna.
Ricky says, I bet Saquon for Offensive Player of the Year. Bo, Offensive Rookie of the Year a week ago. Got great odds. I'm excited for the future. Odds dropped tremendously after Sunday. Great bets, both of them.
Can I tell you my bet that I'm
Yes.
so proud of? We're going to go long.
It is what it is.
It's on overtime. I got, at the beginning of the season, I tweeted this out after the preseason game. I said, I've seen enough, and I bet the Broncos to make the playoffs.
Oh, I've got that. I've got over 9.5. I'm excited. Last night, Saquon's running down the field. As he's running that second long touchdown, I look at the odds. He's plus 750 to win MVP. I didn't take it. This morning is plus 500. Missed my window.
Plus 500 is still a pretty good window.
I know. Xavi. I already have Lamar, too, so it's a little hedge. What do you think about Bo's brother, Tez? Do you think he becomes a Bronco? I doubt it, just because he's redundant. You got Mims. You got Troy Franklin. Do you need another speed guy? It's possible if he falls. I mean, I don't think the Broncos would say no, but I don't know that he's the exact mold, especially knowing Sean likes the bigger receivers.
Wait, hold on. Bo Nix has a brother named Tez Johnson?
Adopted. Yes. Oh. There we go. Wilson the Ghost. 1-2 parlays this weekend. Congrats. Take my money on a victory Monday. Oh, thank you for sharing.
Dude, there's honestly nothing better than people feeling the love and the charity. And
incredible.
Super chatting with win and winnings.
Final super chat before we get out here. GGG. We hit another ticket with this dub. Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Raider fans talk so much trash. I was so happy to shut them up. That's nice.
You got to
swept them for the first time since 2014.
And the commitment to just being a shit talker. If you're a Raiders fan, you have no ground to stand on. We don't even know what city you play in anymore. They've had no success longer than the Denver Broncos, but it's just baked into their culture.
100%. All right, that's going to do it today. Shout out Eric. Shout out Yaya. Shout out Todd. Shout out me.
Shout out Bo Sean.
And Bo himself. We will see you guys tomorrow morning with Todd and Zach.
We all silly like the mayor.